Welcome back, everybody. We've got a ton of great listener questions and research requests this week, and a lot of them are focused on one topic.
Ethereum.
Yeah, Ethereum. Specifically, a lot of you are wondering, can it really keep up? Can it hold its own in this crazy crypto landscape, especially with all the recent price action, upgrades, and of course those rivals like Solana that are just exploding in popularity?
Yeah, it's a really fascinating moment for Ethereum. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the price action. We saw that, it was pretty dramatic. That dropped down to $2,150 earlier this month.
Oh, yeah.
And I know a lot of people were freaking out, understandably so. But what's interesting is that drop was actually connected to those U.S. tariffs that suddenly got slapped on Canada, Mexico, and China.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, global events.
It's crazy how these global events...
They really ripple through the crypto markets.
Yeah, and to think that, almost instantly, those tariffs, boom, tank the price. But then just as quickly, we see Justin Trudeau sends out a tweet about a pause on tariffs, some diplomacy happens behind the scenes, and Ethereum rebounds. Talk about a roller coaster.
It is. It really highlights that volatility that still exists in crypto.
Absolutely.
But, aside from what triggered the drop, what's interesting is what it might have actually done for Ethereum. Some analysts are calling it, get this, a system cleanse, because it basically forced out a lot of those really risky leveraged positions.
Oh, interesting.
So maybe a good thing in the long run.
Okay, so break that down for me. What does it mean to have, you said low quality leverage being flushed out.
Right.
Why is that potentially a good thing?
Okay, so think of it this way. Let's say Ethereum's a tree, right?
Okay.
And leverage positions, those are like the branches. Leverage basically lets you amplify your bets.
Right.
Which is awesome if the price is going up.
Sure.
But when the price drops, like it did with those tariffs, those highly leveraged positions, they get wiped out fast, kind of like weak branches snapping off in a storm, Yeah. So it's like cleaning out the dead wood to make the tree stronger.
Exactly.
Okay, so this cleanse, essentially, it's removing those unstable elements from the market.
Right.
And that makes it healthier, more stable for longer-term growth, potentially.
Exactly, yeah. It can lead to a much more sustainable recovery. And we have to remember, all of this is happening while some pretty big players are making some really interesting moves in the Ethereum space.
Yeah.
We saw, for example, World Liberty Financial,
Right.
which is that DeFi project with ties to, Trump family.
Right.
They moved millions of dollars into Coinbase.
Wow.
And then they went and bought a whole bunch of ETH.
Oh, wow. So they're putting their money where their mouth is, or, where their tweets are, I guess.
Right, because then you had that perfectly timed tweet from Eric Trump telling people to add ETH.
It's pretty suspicious timing.
It does raise eyebrows, that's for sure. Whether it was, insider info or just some really, really good observation, who knows?
Yeah.
But then we also had Fidelity.
Oh, yeah, they're huge, right? A major institutional player making a pretty significant Ethereum purchase recently.
It seems like there's still a lot of belief in Ethereum, even with all the, ups and downs.
Yeah, it definitely suggests that despite that volatility, there's still a lot of confidence in its long-term potential. And I think when you see institutions like Fidelity putting serious money into ETH, it signals they're seeing value beyond just those quick gains, They're looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah, they're not playing around.
No, they're not.
So we've got this whole mix of crazy global events, big players making waves, and then you've got these big institutional players like Fidelity jumping in.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
It really is.
Yeah.
But let's actually dive into the tech side of things for a minute, because Ethereum recently got that first gas limit boost since 2021.
It did, yeah. A big deal for the network.
And for those listening who might not know, what is gas?
Yeah.
And why does this increase matter?
Okay, so gas is basically the fuel, right? It powers all the transactions on the Ethereum network. So every action you take, whether it's sending ETH or minting an NFT, all of it requires a certain amount of gas.
Okay.
And the gas limit, that determines how much total computation can actually happen in each block that gets added to the blockchain.
So raising the gas limit means...
It means you can fit more transactions into each block.
Oh, okay.
Which theoretically makes the network faster and more efficient.
So that's good, right? More efficient.
It is, yeah, especially because scalability, as we all know, has been one of Ethereum's biggest challenges.
For sure.
But even with this boost, we're still looking at Ethereum processing something like 1 to 1.5 million transactions per day.
Okay.
And just for context, Solana, which is a major competitor, as we mentioned, they can handle somewhere between 60 and 65 million transactions per day.
Oh, wow. That's a huge difference.
It is. It's a pretty significant gap.
So even with the upgrade, it seems like Ethereum's still playing catch-up in the speed department.
Right.
So how are they planning on bridging that gap?
That's where these, and you've probably heard this term before, layer 2 solutions come in.
Oh yeah, layer 2, it's all the rage.
It is, and for good reason. They're designed to take some of that pressure off of Ethereum's main blockchain. So projects like Arbitrum, Optimism, Sync, they're all building these extra layers on top of Ethereum.
Okay, I'm going to need a little ELI 5 on this one. Explain it like I'm 5. How do these layer 2 solutions actually work? Like, what are they doing?
Okay, so picture this. You're at a super busy restaurant, right?
All right, I'm there. I'm hungry.
Everyone's trying to order at the same time. It's going to take forever.
Oh yeah, total chaos.
But what if instead of everyone placing their order individually, someone collected all the orders, bundled them together, and then submitted like one giant order to the kitchen?
Okay, so it's like streamlining the process.
Exactly. And that's basically what a layer 2 solution does.
Right, okay.
It bundles those transactions together,
Got it.
processes them off of the main Ethereum chain, and then settles them back on the main chain, but all in one batch.
So it's like creating an express lane for all those transactions.
Exactly. It's bypassing all that traffic on the main Ethereum highway.
Oh, I like that. That's a good analogy.
So it's a clever way to deal with the congestion, but it still feels like Ethereum needs these kind of like workarounds.
Right.
While competitors like Solana, they're built for speed right from the get-go.
It's like they were born in the fast lane.
Right, and that's a key point because even with the upgrades and the layer 2 solutions, Ethereum is still fundamentally limited by its original design. So it's trying to adapt, it's evolving, but it is playing catch up in some areas.
I'm trying to keep up with the cool kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, speaking of adapting and evolving, there's that upcoming Pectra upgrade, which I've heard a lot of buzz about, particularly how it could impact those layer 2 solutions.
Right.
What can you tell us about Pectra? What's the big deal?
Well, Pectra is definitely one of the most anticipated upgrades for the entire Ethereum community.
For sure.
And one of the key features is that it increases what's called the blob target.
Blob target. Okay.
Now, I know that sounds pretty technical.
Yeah, a little.
But essentially, blobs are these packages of data that layer 2 networks use to store transactions off-chain.
Oh, okay.
So a larger blob target means those networks can actually handle more transactions and process them more efficiently.
So bigger blobs, more transactions, faster speeds.
Exactly. It sounds really promising, but the question is, will it be enough to actually catch up with rivals like Solana, or is Ethereum always going to be playing that game of catch-up?
That's a really tough question, and to be honest with you, it's one that even the experts are debating.
I bet.
But there's another piece of this puzzle that we need to look at, and that's the ETH-BTC ratio.
Okay. The ratio.
Yeah, it's essentially a way to measure investor confidence in Ethereum compared to Bitcoin.
Oh, interesting. So it's like a measure of how they stack up against each other.
Right, and it gives us a sense of which way the wind is blowing in the market, you know? So where does that ratio stand right now?
Yeah, what's it telling us about Ethereum's current position? Well, it's not the most optimistic news.
Oh.
The ETH-BTC ratio has actually dropped to its lowest point since March of 2021, and it's sitting at just 0.027.
Oh, wow. That is a significant drop.
It is. It's pretty substantial, and some people see it as a warning sign that maybe Ethereum is losing its appeal as that leading platform for smart contracts and all those decentralized applications.
So a lot at stake for Ethereum in the coming months and years.
Absolutely. Yeah, facing some stiff competition, technical challenges, and then these concerning signals like that dropping ratio.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
It is. But you know what? Let's actually save that discussion on price predictions for the next part of our deep dive, because I think we could spend a whole other segment just unpacking what the experts are saying and what those predictions tell us about Ethereum's long-term prospects.
I think that's a great idea. So to everyone listening, make sure you stick around. We'll be back with part 2 of our deep dive into Ethereum, where we're going to explore those price predictions and what they reveal about its potential future.
Really interesting stuff.
All right, we'll see you soon.
See you then. All right, so let's get into those price predictions, because as you said, they give us a glimpse into how the market is valuing Ethereum's potential, right? Especially with everything else we've been talking about.
Right, all these factors swirling around.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are the experts saying? Are they feeling bullish, bearish? What's the sentiment on ETH long term?
Well, there's always a range of opinions. You know, it's just the nature of predictions.
Of course, always a spectrum.
Right. So digital coin price, for example, they're predicting that ETH could reach an average price of $5,510 in 2025.
Okay.
With a potential high of $6,037.
All right. So still room for growth.
Definitely. And then you have Changelly,
Okay.
They're a bit more optimistic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, projecting an average of $6,124 in 2025
Okay.
and a peak of $7,194.
So even with the recent dip and, all the competition from Solana, some analysts are still seeing some pretty significant growth potential for Ethereum.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are just short-term predictions.
Right. What about further out, like 2027, even 2030? Are there people making predictions that far out?
There are, but you got to take those long-term forecasts with a huge grain of salt. It's like trying to predict the weather weeks in advance,
Almost impossible.
Almost. So for 2027, digital coin price estimates ETH could hit an average of $9,580.
Okay.
With a high of $10,098.
Still climbing.
Changely, again, a bit more bullish. They put the average at $12,316.
Wow.
And the potential peak at $14,527.
Okay, so those numbers are getting pretty big now.
They are, yeah. And then if we jump all the way to 2030...
Wait, are people really making predictions that far out? I mean, things change so quickly in the crypto world, it seems almost impossible.
It does. It really is like gazing into a crystal ball, isn't it? But those long-term forecasts, while speculative, can give us a sense of the overall trajectory that analysts are seeing for an asset.
Okay, so like a general direction.
Exactly. So for 2030, digital coin price predicts an average price of $14,829, peaking at $15,108. And Changely, sticking with their optimistic outlook, forecasts an average of $40,055 with a potential high of $47,066.
Okay, those 2030 numbers are pretty mind-blowing. But as you said, it's really important to remember that these are just projections.
Right.
They can't possibly account for every unexpected event, technological breakthrough, regulation changes, all that stuff that could happen between now and then.
Absolutely. Those black swan events, like those tariffs we talked about earlier,
Right.
those can really throw any prediction out the window.
Completely derail things.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to look beyond just the numbers and also consider real-world adoption trends when evaluating these price predictions.
So it's not just about the charts and algorithms, it's about understanding how Ethereum's actually being used, across different industries and applications.
Right, exactly. Because if the technology isn't actually being adopted and integrated, then even the most bullish price prediction isn't going to mean much in the long run.
Totally. Got to have the real-world use cases to back it up.
Absolutely. The more real-world utility Ethereum has, the stronger its long-term prospects will be, regardless of what the models say. And speaking of experts, there are some who are going even deeper, looking at historical price patterns, and they're offering some pretty unique insights.
Oh, I'm always interested to hear different perspectives. So what are these experts seeing? What's in the data?
So Joe, the co-founder of DH and AI,
Okay.
he's been doing some fascinating analysis. He points out that those short-term bearish signals, like the dip we saw with ETH recently, those need to be viewed within a larger context.
Okay, zoom out a bit.
Exactly. And he's identified similar setups in previous market cycles, back in 2023, 2024. That actually led to some pretty sharp reversals and upward trends.
Oh, wow. So what he's saying is sometimes a dip, especially if it's tied to a specific event like those tariffs, could actually be a buying opportunity.
That's the idea, but of course, trying to time the market is always risky.
Oh, yeah. Incredibly risky.
Right, but what Joe's analysis highlights is the importance of paying attention to how Ethereum reacts at those key support levels.
Okay, how it bounces back.
Exactly. If it bounces back strong, it could be a signal that the bulls are still in control.
Interesting. So it's not always as straightforward as it seems.
No, there are often these deeper patterns and trends at play.
Right, and that's why we've got to look at the big picture, consider all these factors.
Exactly. We have to take a holistic view, consider the technical factors like those price patterns, along with the fundamental factors like real-world adoption, and the overall sentiment of both retail and institutional investors.
Right, piece it all together.
It's like a puzzle, All these pieces help us understand where Ethereum might be headed.
So after examining all this data, global events, technical upgrades, expert predictions, what's your overall take? Can Ethereum really hold its ground against these new super fast blockchains like Solana?
It really is the question, isn't it? Can Ethereum hold its ground?
The million-dollar question. I mean, it's clear that it's got a lot going for it. A huge, passionate community, tons of development, and that first mover advantage that's really hard to beat.
For sure.
But then you've got those challenges we talked about, scalability, Solana breathing down its neck. Those kind of worrisome market signals like that dropping ET-BTC ratio. Where do you stand?
Honestly, it's tough to say for sure. Ethereum definitely faces some really stiff competition. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Solana's a powerhouse, right? Impressive speed, lower fees, and then you can't forget all the other blockchains popping up trying to get a piece of the action.
Right, always new players.
It's a constantly evolving space, that's for sure.
But Ethereum, it still has that massive network effect going for it,
Oh, yeah.
right? Like a whole ecosystem built around it. dApps,
Yeah.
DeFi protocols, NFTs. That's got to count for something.
It absolutely does. That network effect is a huge advantage for Ethereum. It's got that proven track record, huge pool of developers, users, and the infrastructure is just constantly improving. So, yeah, that's definitely a big plus.
So it's a battle, right? Established ecosystem versus raw speed and efficiency. It feels like we're at a turning point.
It does feel that way, and that's what makes this space so exciting. It's a constant game of innovation and disruption.
Absolutely.
But I think at the end of the day, the winner, whoever that ends up being, will be the technology that truly serves its users best.
Well said, and that brings us back to you, our listeners. We've taken this deep dive into Ethereum,
Yep, all its ins and outs.
explored its strengths, weaknesses, challenges, opportunities.
The good, the bad, and the future.
Exactly. And now we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on Ethereum's future?
Do you think it can overcome those hurdles and maintain its top spot? Or is there another contender waiting in the wings?
We've thrown a lot of information at you, lots of expert opinions. Now it's your turn to weigh in. Share your own predictions, your insights, anything.
Jump into the comments below. Let us know what you're thinking. We love hearing from you and getting those discussions going.
And hey, while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe to CoinTalk Podcast, smash that like button, and tell your friends about the show.
Spread the word.
It's exactly. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Ethereum.
It's been a wild ride.
It has. It's a complex world, always changing, but that's what keeps things interesting. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning. We'll see you in the next one.